After over 20 years of working in the comic book industry, I've decided to embark on a new adventure. Join me as I explore the strange and unusual, doing everything from sharing my favorite books, comics, and horror movies, to traveling to abandoned spaces, horror-themed bars and restaurants, and all sorts of spooky spots. Welcome to Curious Haunts. I'm your host, Jeremy Haun. Welcome back for a very special episode of Curious Haunts. Since I started this show, I've wanted to occasionally add in an interview segment, chats with some of my favorite horror creators from comics, prose, film, and more. Now at its heart, Curious Haunts is always going to be exploration. Travel to bizarre, haunted, and whimsical places to find the strange and unusual. But today, I'm going to sit down and talk with artist Mike Tisserand and tell you a bit more about our new horror comics project, Murder Podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Okay. Hi, I'm Jeremy Haun, writer of the new Ignition Press comic Murder Podcast. And this is
Mike Tisserand, the artist of the new Ignition Press comic Murder Podcast.
So we're here today to talk to you a little bit about how we started working on this thing, give you as few hints as possible about the actual book itself, because we've been sworn to secrecy, right? Like
yes.
that's kind of how that goes. But yeah, so you and I actually met 35 years ago. No, it feels like it. It's close to 7 years ago, probably.
No, I think it was longer than that. Wasn't it 2013 around there?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, so over 10 years ago.
Yeah,
there we go. That actually makes more sense now that I think about it. Because you had COVID years to everything,
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like,
if
you had 3 years to whatever it is, you're thinking you're pretty much right there. So we met on a project called Bad Karma, and it was a collective of comic creators, including myself, Seth Peck, B. Clay Moore, and Alex Grecian, a group of writers that came together, and we wanted to do kind of a shared experience thing, sort of an opportunity for the four of us to write and do crazy things in kind of an anthology format. And that format was ridiculous and fun, and each of us created kind of our own little main stories. There was a singular story that all of us wrote together. I drew, but Mike and I met on a project that I wrote and he drew, and it was called Chaos Agent. Chaos Agent was basically the concept that what if you could take the chaos of the world around us and bend it to be able to do really interesting things. And you can do good things with it or bad things with it, but our chaos agents were the good guys in this story. Yeah. And I don't know, I had a hell of a lot of fun working with you on it. Mike comes from an animation background, which, constantly I feel like that in comics we're losing people to animation. The fact that I, got to pull you away just for a few minutes with Chaos Agent in the first place was a miracle, but the double miracle was when I called you and said, hey, do you want to do this new book for Ignition? I don't know, what was your take on Chaos Agent and coming together that way?
Yeah, what I remember was, so I was working as an animator at that time, and I was sort of bothering people trying to find something that I could draw. Comics was always my thing that I wanted to do, and I fell into animation and into the animation industry. And so, I was just kind of inquiring with different artists and writers, like, are you looking for anyone? Are you looking for anyone? Right. And then I got put in touch with you, and that sort of kicked it off. And that was my first thing that I'd ever drawn in comics that was published.
I like, the thing about it, and I think it's maybe like a thing about finding somebody that has worked in animation. You just drew the hell out of everything. Like it was the most joyous experience, because it's predominantly like a crazy action story that we told, and Mike just went in and like took every crazy little, almost like visual action problem that I gave you, and you made it sing, and that stuck with me. And it was one of my favorite experiences. It was just a single issue, and issue's worth of stuff
Yeah.
really in the collection. But that led us to, every, I think every what, like, year we would check in with one another, and hey, how's it going, how's animation going, how are comics going. And we always kind of would end it with this thing of like, yeah, we need to do something else again. And when Ignition came along, I immediately thought of you, and I was like, I've got to figure out a way to steal you from animation to work on this thing. And we pitched you on it, and I think the timing, it was because it was
Yeah.
really the timing being perfect.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I don't know how much you stole me away from it, as opposed to I was looking for I needed to draw comics again, and so it was serendipitous that you had this going on with Ignition Press, and I was just looking for a way out. And then the project itself was like, it was a fantastic opportunity.
I think we always talked about like our love of kind of like horror, but kind of horror outside of the norms.
Yeah.
And I think that when we started talking about it, and as someone that both writes and draws, I kind of had this thing where we were talking about earlier, when we were driving, but like, you always, when you don't have an artist in mind, I sort of tend to imagine the style of it in kind of my style, and I'm like, oh, I don't want that. Like, it's like, I don't have time to draw this thing, but the second that you said yes to it, it changed it from being the typical horror thing, really super dark and moody. And look, it's a dark story. We're telling something that is a dark story, but I think that you gave it this energy and humanity, and really pulled it in. And then when we go dark, you go dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that about it. I mean, when you first pitched it to me, that was, I don't know if you remember this, but I was sort of saying how I was working years on kids shows as a storyboard artist, and I've loved the idea of working on a horror story because you have those moments that I love in storyboarding and animation in general, in film and television, of having those great moments with characters, those character moments. And but what was always missing was just that opportunity to, just destroy everything.
Right.
Yeah, you never get to do that.
Yeah.
Especially in children's animation.
Well, yeah, I think that we were talking about it, and you're like, you never get to kill the kid, and I'm like, we don't have those rules here.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the story, we're not actually killing kids, folks. But I think that this has become, another just joyous collaboration. And, we started working on it. You were still working in animation, and you were kind of making that transition on this book. And, from the beginning, we had the conversation about like, hey, I'm gonna work at, like the best pace I can, which was still faster than so many people working in comics. It was a situation where, I'd get another page and another page, and it was this unfolding, joyous, terrifying little thing that I got to watch as it went on. And I think that as we went, me being able to imagine everything that I was writing in your style specifically was the most freeing, wonderful. Like, it excited me in a way that I think, for as much as I loved this and wanted to do this project from jump, you just kept nailing little bits of both the humanity of the characters and the horror. And I was like, I'm in.
Yeah. That's great. Because like working on the book, knowing your work, I've seen, the beauty, the realm, everything you've done over the years, and reading your script, I visualize your work.
Oh, that's weird.
And so there's a part of me that goes like, I don't know how to do this how Jeremy does it.
Right.
So I sort of just have to, I'm just winging it, doing it the only way I know how to do it. And just hoping that it's something, you know.
You mean you wing it and then do it the better way is what you're saying? Like
I don't know about that.
I think that for me, like, there's a moment in the cold open in this zero issue that we're doing where this thing happens and you're like, is it going to be as bad as we think it is? And then you made it so much more disturbing in the pacing of it, and it was perfect because I, as someone that loves gore and loves horror films and loves all these things, seeing it in your style, and especially we're working with colorist Nick Filardi, and you and Nick together, like when things get bloody, they get very, very bloody. And I was like, ooh, this is the good stuff.
Yeah. It's been fun. Like I haven't done anything like that before. So it was starting it was sort of a thing of, well, how far can I take this? What feels right? And not trying to hide things behind, blocking gory moments out of the panel.
Right.
Really just getting in there and getting your hands as dirty as possible.
Right. I love it.
And just getting that jarring nature between,
I think you did it really well. I want to take a step back really quick, and I want to talk about for you, because you've worked on a lot of animation and done some really cool things. For you, what makes comics special? Like what haunted you so much that you were ready to step away and always wanted to come back to this?
Yeah, it's probably a few things. The probably the number one thing is that in comics, you have a sense that it's your own work.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times in animation, you feel very restricted by the expectations of the show, essentially, right?
Right.
And so there's that aspect of it where it feels like it's my work on the page. Right. And then in comics, the restraints are off almost, right? Like I imagine it changes from book to book in the tone of the book and how far are people willing to take things, or what does the story call for. But right. Like in Murder Podcast, there's no restraints, and so you're getting the opportunity to do things creatively that you would never ever be able to do in animation.
Right.
Nothing would.
Yeah. Not most animation.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, in Canada, a lot of the shows we get are, the kids shows,
right.
The kindergarten shows, but that's sort of the draw. It's just, right. It's your own. It feels like your own work, and it feels like you just have an enormous amount of room to explore, the ideas, what's going on in the script, and really try stuff out.
So whenever I work on a new project, I make these things like lookbooks is what I call them. And I sent you one for this, and it was like all of my thoughts about like everything from like the clothes to the setting to all these things. What did you do to prepare for this series on your end? Like what was the thing did you watch a lot of horror movies? What did you do?
Yeah, I was watching a lot of horror movies. I've always been a fan of horror. And so, there's films that are just burned into my brain, like the classic horror films. But so it's sort of investigating reintroducing myself again to the genre, and then with the characters, It's a cast of 5 women,
Right.
and so a lot of it was leaning on my girlfriend, who
Right.
knows much more about fashion and finding unique ways to approach characters.
Right.
That lookbook that you prepared was
Right.
incredibly helpful in just getting building contrast and distinction between all the characters. It was great. It was an invaluable tool.
Yeah. I think it is awesome having like amazing women in your life when you're doing a book like this to get that extra, because we are 2 dudes working on this.
Yeah.
Like there's no way around that. But I loved asking, Lori and our friends about the characters and about, just like literally went so far as I was creating this and creating the core cast of women. I interviewed a group of friends of ours, and each of them like had little things about their personality that fit these characters and really informed who they are and how they are. And of course, because it's a story, you tell things differently. You mix and match in kind of fun ways, but that input is really invaluable. It's one of the best things that you can do as a creative, especially a creative, as a couple of guys. Like getting that is a lifesaver.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, like when we were just designing the main character for the cold open.
Mm-hmm.
I'd sort of sent you a design, and it was sort of my interpretation of this young college student.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, man, I don't know. And then Melissa, my girlfriend, who you essentially described her as a teenager.
Oh, that's awesome.
She came in and sort of just gave me notes on the whole thing and was like, yeah. And so the what I came back with was basically, her notes on this character based on her much better understanding of that character than my own.
It's so like, and that like what you did, what you came back with her input is so perfect. Yeah. Like I knew that girl, like that is, and just, like you think back to like college and stuff like that. And like you knew that person.
Yeah.
That look, that feel, like even things about like, there's a really great moment where like you kind of play like in the beginning, like how upset but like vulnerable she kind of is in a way that was really, really special. Like, since we're sworn to secrecy and can't talk about too much, I'm gonna say a little bit, but like, she's having a tough time in a relationship when this story starts, and there were just subtle things that you did with her expressions and the way she carried herself that, on top of the look of the character and everything from her hairstyle to the clothes that she's wearing, fit so well. And I think that there's this kind of takes us off in a slightly different direction, but like the best horror connects on character. Like, I think one of the things when people think about the worst aspects of horror, they think about just the violence, just the gore, just, there's stuff out there, torture stuff that gets really gross and disgusting. And, like I think everybody thinks about the most brutal aspects of horror, but at its core, the best horror is a human examination.
Yeah.
And I loved the humanity that you brought to her in the cold open. And I love the humanity then that led to into the series itself and our core group of women, and its strength and like just like a strength and vulnerability mixed with people being really funny,
Yeah.
I love like the little moments of banter and back and forth and the way that you pulled, you always kind of gave everybody little bits of business that they're doing, and I that's my favorite
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, that's what I really liked about reading the scripts was that, I mean, especially in that cold opening, um, like what you were saying was that it's more than just about bloody violence, right?
Right,
And I always, feel the same way. Like the audience has to connect with the character somehow,
right,
because when you get to those horrifying moments, they're invested in the character, right? And so I love that in the scripts you've set it up like you care for these characters, you want these characters to you built it into the story that
right.
these are characters you care about,
Yeah.
and you don't want bad things to happen to them.
Mhm.
And that's to me that's great horror when you're going, no,
Yeah, yeah.
don't
Right,
don't do it,
right.
and it's coming.
Please don't, and you know it is.
Yeah.
Um, so like we are now well into issue 2 on the art,
Yeah.
and you're turning in some pretty fantastic moments. You know, what like has without spoilers, Mike, but like, has there been anything that surprised you about this series? Something that you didn't expect, going into it, the I've kind of thrown in your path. Has there been anything that's really
Well, I mean, the opportunities that I've had to show things that I don't normally get to show,
yeah,
that's been a nice thing. I like how those moments play out in the script. I mean, the time that they're given, the way that they're paced out in the script, it's made it super fun to draw.
right,
And yeah, and just like the cast of characters, I like that was a nice surprise. I mean, you pitched the book to me um, before we got started on it, and
right,
then but just getting the script and just the characters that you created for the story, and how it's their lives are unfolding with this with the presence of evil.
right.
Not to give away too much.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of the worst point to be at in any series. Like we can talk about it, but it's only in the generalities of this sort of thing. Um, do so. Obviously, the title is Murder Podcast. It is about a cursed podcast. Do you listen to any true crime stuff, or does your partner listen to any?
Oh, yeah, Melissa, my partner Melissa, loves it. Well, it seems like it's a bit of a stereotype,
It is.
but like my mother, my sister, um, Melissa, they eat it up, and they love that stuff. My mom's been watching Dateline for 30 years.
Right.
But yeah, um, where was I going with this?
Just like, do you listen to it?
Oh yeah, do I? Yeah. So myself personally, there's a couple I listen to. I mean, the main one I think is the most popular. Is I've been listening to it for years. Is My Favorite Murder.
Right.
Yeah. I love the hosts.
Right.
And they're great at breaking these stories down.
Right.
Yeah, and their commentary on them as well.
Yeah. I so I am a wimp. I have so many friends and family and loved ones that listen to these things and watch these things. And the reality of it, the true humanity of it, upsets me on a level that I can't begin to explain. Now, give me an axe wielding slasher or a buzzing chainsaw in the distance. Fine. Absolutely fine. Give me Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, any of that. Great. Give me ghosts, demons, any of that thing. When it gets too real, when I think about the actual reality of this, because it comes with some really just like terrible stuff happening to wonderful
yeah.
people. That gets to me on a level that's very hard. I, of course, because I believe in doing so, did a lot of research for this. This story actually came out of everybody I know talking about these things. We would have, like fire pit nights with groups of us all sitting around talking, and people would be talking about My Favorite Murder or various things. And I'm always like, I really want I really want to get into this. And like you said, the people that are making these things are lovely.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I like listening to My Favorite Murder. I love the hosts. But the things sometimes that they talk about get to me on a level that I'm like, I can't quite pull it off.
It's got 2 feet in reality, right?
Yes,
As
yes.
opposed to 1 foot out with.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, if all this stuff was just like people telling stories about like vampires or something like that, I'm so in. Maybe we need to invent like a new brand of like true crime podcast that's just true crime from like a supernatural standpoint.
Yeah.
Where I guess we're kind of doing that with this, aren't
Yeah,
we?
yeah,
Yeah, kind of.
yeah.
But yeah, just get, like if they're like, yeah, so then we had a group of people found with broken necks. Apparently, it's a mummy.
Yeah.
Like that would be right up my alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're in.
Now,
Yeah.
now I'm super sold. I'm super sold.
Well, you seem to be you seem to understand the nature of these podcasts with the story, right?
Well, I think it's about people. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's the best thing. Like that's the, we keep going back to that. It's about the humanity of these characters. It's about people and the things that we're drawn to and why we're drawn to it. I believe, and I've examined it in a lot of my work. Hauntology, the
Yeah.
project that I did during the pandemic, was an examination of why we feel the things we feel, and it really, Hauntology for me was during the time of the pandemic, like full on lockdown. It was me working through the feelings and emotions that I was having through horror, through
Yeah.
the lens of horror. And I think that horror is something that is in such a strange way, it's healing.
Yeah.
I think that it takes our fears, the things that we don't understand, that confuse us, like, I mean, slashers themselves, like, are an examination of someone coming in the night down an alley, whatever it is, doing something terrible. But the healing aspect is, even though they come back again and again and again, we do get to see them die.
Yeah.
And I think that knowing that and controlling that, and even into true crime and that sort of thing, I think there is a consistent examination of when you know what the unknown is, when you break it down, you can control it.
Yeah. I got to say too, on the note of ontology.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with like your ability to tell a story in 3 pages or 2 pages or 5 pages, because it's such a short format,
Right.
and to get it working, it was super cool to see. And like the stories had such a distinct feel to them too. Like it wasn't, it didn't feel cookie cutter,
I mean, that's what I hope to do with everything. And I think that for me, short stories are one of my first loves. I mean, I when I found Skeleton Crew by Stephen King, it rocked my world as a kid. And you got Tales from the Crypt. You've got everything from Creepshow to the the great sci-fi, the Twilight Zone and things like that. Like those short form examinations always obsessed me. And I love, hand me a short story collection by Laird Barron or Nathan Ballingred. Like those are my favorite things. And I was wanting to really break it down like that. And I think that made me a better storyteller
Oh yeah.
for something like Murder Podcast. Like that, in a weird way, prepared me for when you have to identify the humanity in something, in something in a couple moments. When you only have 2 pages to love or hate or feel for a character, if you can do that in 2, you can take and do it in 22 pages or 12 pages or whatever it is. And so, I think that made me a better storyteller by the time that we came to Murder Podcast.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So this has been awesome. Like I'm glad that we got to do this. Thank you so much for joining us. Murder Podcast is a really special book for me. It is my first book with Ignition Press. Getting to work with you again has been joyous. Like this, we're in Seattle right now for Emerald City Comic Con, and getting to travel around today and like look at some of the sites. Even though we don't necessarily come out and fully say it, Murder Podcast takes place in Seattle, and so we got to go around to Pike Place Market and some of the places that things take place in during this. At least spiritually takes place in, and it's been a great day, and I love this project so much. I'm so grateful to you for running, kicking, and screaming from animation to come back to comics. We're gonna keep you.
Yeah. Well, as long as you guys want me. I mean, it's the same sentiment. I appreciate, I've been loving the experience so far, and working with you and Jamie and Philip and all those guys. It's been an awesome experience, and I'm around as long as you need me.
All right. So I'm Jeremy Haun, writer of the Ignition Press series, Murder Podcast.
I'm Mike Tisserand, artist of Ignition series, Murder Podcast.
And let's go make more funny books.
Sounds good.
All right. I had a great time talking Murder Podcast with my pal Mike. And if it sounds right up your alley, click on the link below in the show notes and head over to Kickstarter to reserve your copy. The campaign is running until May 15th. And if you like curious haunts, horror, true crime podcasts, Murder Podcast is just the book for you. Now, you might be wondering, what's next? Well, next up, we've got an extra special episode where I head to North Bend, Washington, and pay tribute to one of the greatest visionary voices of our time. Then I've got another special interview episode coming your way. After that, it's a Kansas City double feature, then off to see the stranger side of Chicago. It's going to be a fantastically spooky time, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. So that's it for episode 6 of Curious Haunts. If you have a weird, wonderful, spooky place you feel like I should visit, please let me know. And if you'd like to join me on this curious and haunting journey, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you know a fellow traveler who, like you, is drawn to the strange and unusual, I'd appreciate you sharing Curious Haunts with them. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Cheers.